Hello, hello, beautiful people. How are you doing? Please say hi in the comment section and let me know where you are joining me from. Hi, everyone. My name is Flora Daisy. I am a digital accessibility expert and founder at Linoratech. Linoratech is just an incredible company with the value and mission to support leaders and professionals easily create products that are inclusive and accessible to everyone. And I really mean it. Everyone, including people with visible or invisible disabilities. I like to self describe usually on the show because in the audience, sometimes we have people with low vision and sometimes we have people who are blind. Oh, I can tell that my voice is running away. Hopefully, I'm not about to lose my voice, which is something that happened to me from time to time. But I am a Black woman. I love to smile. Oh my goodness, you probably can tell in my intonation. I am currently rocking my poofy hair, my poofy natural hair. I am wearing some gold earrings and an African attire, which is like a very flower, like there's a lot of flowers of multiple colors. Anyway, I am really happy to be here and I hope you are too. If you have any question at any point in time, just put it in the comment section. We can respond live, trust me. And don't feel shy. Please don't feel shy. Today, I have an incredible guest speaker with me, and we are going to talk about going beyond autism diagnosis and talk a little bit more about neurodistinct voices. The incredible person I have with me today as a guest speaker is the amazing Grant Harris. So I'm going to just pull him in. Please help me welcome Harris on the stage here. Say hi, don't feel shy. So, hi,
Um,
Harris.
um,
How are you doing today?
it's a great day. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everyone that's able to join. Pleasure to be here.
I'm super happy to be here. And gosh, a new year, new beginning, everything. But again, we love to talk about inclusion. We love to talk about diversity. And we love to talk and learn a little bit more about autism. And you brought something interesting to my mind. But you know what? Before we dive and unpack everything, Aris, can you please introduce yourself to my audience? Tell them who you are, what you're passionate about.
Yeah, thank you, Flora. Pleasure to be here. My name is Grant Harris. I am founder and president of GTH Consulting, which is a management consulting firm. I specialize in organizational development, human capital, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, customized services for both public and private clients. In this conversation today, we happen to be talking about neurodiversity. I am a three-time published author and also a neurodiversity champion, and I help organizations navigate neurodiversity from the boardroom to the mailroom. And that's the conversation that I like to have because neurodiversity is all around us at home, in life, at work. And I specialize in the workplace. But that's why I say from the boardroom to the mailroom because it is within all areas and all aspects of our work lives. So I'm glad to be here to share a little bit about my story and talk more about this work. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I think that neurodiversity, it's an area that seems to be still vague in many people's mind. People don't understand, for example, the definition of it and understand that there is, I'll let you talk a little bit more about it because you're the expert in that area. My expertise is around digital product and the impact on the disability community. But I love that you're here to open up our mind and give us a little bit more pointers. You told me that you actually you, let me say that properly. Sometimes the words are running away from my mouth. But the way you self-discovered and diagnosed yourself was not like, oh, I am, autism. Let me just go and check. How did that journey started for you? Because one of the reason why I'm asking that question is because many people believe that someone with a disability is someone who is blind, which is kind of obvious. Sometimes they are blind when they were born, or someone who is using a wheelchair. But actually, 70% of disability can be invisible disabilities. And so some people don't even know that they have a disability. So, can you tell me a little bit about your own journey?
Yeah, Flora, you're right. And I know we have a short time today. I could spend this entire time talking about my journey of self-discovery, but it wasn't self-discovery. I had people that were part of that journey, and specifically my wife. She was instrumental in helping me learn more about myself and recognize my autistic traits. And like you said, some people are born blind. You can also acquire blindness, but I was born autistic. I just didn't know until I was late diagnosed about 3 years ago. Usually, autism is diagnosed between the ages of 2 to 6, but I was not diagnosed until my late 30s. So that's a little bit odd. And being a Black man in the workplaces that I have been and being late diagnosed is more common than what I knew before. And I have been in building community and learning more about people in this particular community. Autism specifically is my type of neurodiversity. However, neurodiversity is like an onion. It's layered. So you have three layers of it, and the easiest way or the most foundational way to describe it in my conversations is that neurodiversity is all the different ways that the brain thinks and the body behaves. So there is a neurotypical brain because we all have a brain. We're all humans, and it starts with that basis. And then there's a neurotypical brain based on what medical science tells us that this is how a brain is supposed to look. This is how a brain is supposed to operate on the traditional standard path. And then you have what some people call neurodivergence, which is diverging left or right from the standard or from that traditional path. And then there's a third descriptor is how I self-identify is neurodistinct. And the reason that I don't identify as neurodivergent is because that is a label and a status that says, well, you are other, you are different. This is the middle of the road. Is this the way it's supposed to be? And this is the way you're supposed to think and the way you're supposed to act. And then therefore, if you're left or right of that target, then you're different. And that somehow is unacceptable. In my mind, we are all neurodiverse because we all have a brain and we all have brains that function. So therefore, your brain might be similar makeup, but it's different because you are a different person than I am.
Yeah.
Not all of us are neurodivergent. Not all of us have those traits. Specifically, I identify as neurodistinct because I believe that you, for me and everyone on this call, is a distinct human being first and foremost.
Yeah.
So we all have the right and the opportunity and the access to live a life full of distinction, is what I like to say. So I see myself as neurodistinct, and not because I am left or right of what a doctor or science says I should be, but because the way that I operate as an autistic person, because autistic people are different. You will meet no two autistic people are the same. No two dyslexic people are the same. They're unique and they're distinct in their own way that they show up in life, at home, and at work. So that's why I describe as neurodistinct versus neurodivergent.
I love that. I love that you're providing some clarity around those different aspects. One of the questions that I want to ask the audience again, audience, are you, I want to say, are you a beginner in understanding this topic around neurodiversity and autism? Are you an intermediate level? Are you in advanced level? I mean, I know Harris here is in advanced level because the data, the information that he is sharing with the with the audience is just amazing. Harris, I want to ask you a question specifically. What does what does it Again, I'm always losing my words. That's why you said that we are all unique. So we use the brain, but in a different ways. I love it. What is the impact of understanding or getting diagnosed for example, autism? Does the knowledge of this give you a different impact in life?
Yeah, certainly. Self-discovery, self-awareness, self-advocacy. These are all things that I talk about. I, in my work, have built a proprietary framework called RACE, RACE for an acronym.
Mhm.
And the first part of that framework is recognize. Recognize who and where you are. Who are you and where are you in this journey? This applies not only to individuals, but it applies to organizations as well when I work with organizations. But recognizing who I am and how I operate, how I show up in the world, how I show up in the workplace, how I show up here, not just how I show up from a presentation perspective, but how I show up from a behavioral perspective, from a thought and a perspective, also from a world view and a cultural view, from a medical and a science, all of these different types of things of how people show up
Mhm.
to present themselves. So for me, I first had to come to grips with being a person now with a disability. That was the first recognition that I had to accept. And then I had to become familiar with and more familiar with the fact that I happen to be neurodistinct. I didn't describe it as that at the time. This has been along myself journey. At the time, I knew about neurodivergence because I taught autistic kids in middle school before I knew I was autistic. So I had been around them before, so I had a little bit of familiarity, but not everyone has that.
Yes.
So the first step was, okay, I'm a disabled person. And the second one is I'm a neurodivergent person. And the third step was that like I'm autistic. My wife happens to be ADHD. So those are similar in some ways and they clash in many other ways. So I had been around these things, but not all of us are. Not all of us have that opportunity to recognize who and where they are with the tools that I had at that time in life. But even with that familiarity, even being in those environments, I still had to sit with those three different things and understand them differently, educate myself, ask other people, build communities, enter communities that I hadn't been into before. And all of that to this day has been a journey of self reflection and self advocacy, and it will continue to be in the future.
I love that. I love that very much. I see someone left a comment. And please, audience, don't feel shy. Again, please say hi. If you feel shy, just say hi. That's totally fine. Let us know that you are watching. I see Gregory said, to me, I am around high intermediate to low advanced level of knowledge. Great. I love that. So Gregory knows a thing of two. One of the things that is also important to understand, because you talked about a neurodistinctive versus neurodiversity. I understand somehow that neurodistinctive kind of highlight the uniqueness of the individual, but are there example, what does, you know are there example or illustration that you can give me just to understand a little bit more what makes a person a neurodistinctive person versus, for example, someone who is under the spectrum of neurodiversity in general?
So I go back to, and this is in the world that I run in, this is a common theme, this conversation about whether everyone is a little bit autistic, a little bit on the spectrum. And it seems to be a fad in the last several years, especially after the pandemic, that people, that influencers and social media folks seem to think that just because they have they believe that they have a particular trait that shows up at some point in time,
Yeah.
that they can tie to what they believe is autism based on what they learned in high school or based on what their friend or their uncle is telling them, then
Yes.
that means that they are. And I'm not saying that they aren't. And that goes to several conversations about self-identification. I happen to be diagnosed, formally diagnosed, but there are many people who have been either autistic or identifying as neurodivergent long before I have, that don't have a diagnosis for many reasons.
Yeah.
lack of access, lack of funds, all of these things, stigma in certain communities, especially in the Black community, about receiving diagnoses and going through the medical process. So self-identification is a large part of this. And there's this tug of war between people that have a limited understanding and based on a limited capacity with their interaction with
Yes.
people that have been doing this work or advocating for this work or who have been caregivers or who are parents or who have gone through the formal diagnosis and then gone through this journey of self-reflection and self-discovery. There's this tug of war with that. I always say that we are all neurodiverse because, again, we all have brains that operate a little bit differently. Even neurotypical brains don't operate exactly the same.
Mhm.
Just because they are patterned off of what science and medicine tell us doesn't mean that they all operate the same. So we are all distinct people and we all have distinct brains. And even though two people might be neurotypical, those two people still like different types of food, like different types of experiences. They react differently to external stimuli, even though they might have a what we call a neurotypical brain.
Mhm.
So we are all neurodiverse. Some of us happen to be neurodivergent. And then those of us who have gone on a path of self reflection and self identity to further explore that and further deepen the connection to their particular type of thinking and way of being, that's where neurodistinct comes. But that only comes after that journey. It doesn't come day one, month one, in terms of your interaction with these conversations and the way that your mind and your body interacts with these traits, that takes time. And again, I am still on my journey. I still learn from people to my left and to my right that have been doing this longer and deeper and better to better understand myself and how I position myself. So it's definitely all about self-reflection.
Mhm.
Self-identification is okay. It's okay to self-ID. It is not okay to self-appropriate or culturally appropriate just because an influencer or social media says that, hey, look, if you act this way, then you're automatically X. You're automatically ADHD. You're
Mm.
automatically autistic. You're automatically this, that.
Yeah.
That's not okay, in my opinion. But if you're going through self-reflection and you're talking to people and you're in community and you're asking questions, and then you get to a point where all of these life experiences, you can say, I feel like that this is me, that this is where I fit in not only society, but in my path in life, then self-ID is okay. So all of these things are things that I think about personally, talk about with individuals and organizations as I'm saying, how do you navigate the workplace and your employee base with these questions?
Yes.
It's not easy, but that's why I'm here uh, to help navigate that.
Definitely. I like the point that you made about, helping the leaders navigate and helping the employees that they have in organization also navigate. What could be some of the challenges that are a person who is neurodivergent or a person who is neurodistinctive can face in organization as an employee or maybe as a supplier or just as an individual? It could be just a client as well. What are some of those challenges that usually have you come across?
Similar challenges to many other disabled people. All the dis is like disbelief, disapproval, um, dismissal. Well, that's not a thing because people can't see it, and then therefore it doesn't exist. It's all in your head.
Mm.
Um, why can't you just ignore it? Somehow, some way that the person who is identifying or having the conversation, who has disclosed in whatever way, shape, or form, that's the person who has to adjust, and that's not the way it should be.
Mm.
The person who needs the adjustment or the accommodation should not be the person or the people that are doing the majority of the work in order to fit into whatever box that is happens to exist in that organization.
Yeah.
It should be the leaders because again, this goes up and down the ladder. It goes to CEO to intern.
Yeah.
Uh, Fortune 500, and the Fortune 500, 20 to 25% of the Fortune 500 identifies as some level of neurodivergent, but they don't necessarily talk about that in public spheres. They talk about that in private spheres. So it's not an us versus them, or you have this. It's we all are in this. We all experience it somehow. 30 to 40% of the current workforce self-identifies or discloses as neurodivergent or neurodistinct, but that's only 30 to 40%, but 60 to 70% of that percentage is afraid to disclose, is afraid to talk about it and go ask for adjustments or accommodations, either informally or formally. So those are some of the challenges, because not only leaders, but middle managers, frontline workers, the cultural biases, the
Yes.
prejudices that go along with disability in and of itself, even disability that you can see, much
Yes.
less disability that's not apparent, these types of things, the disbelief, the disapproval, the dismissal
Yeah.
of people who think and then therefore behave differently.
I think this is crazy. So people know themselves. It's true that everyone goes through a journey. There's always ups and downs in the journey. But I like what you said, because as we talk a little bit more about those things, it kind of create a better community, because everyone is different and everyone deals with things differently. And you mentioned that, hey, by the way, the person who needs the accommodation is not supposed to be the person creating the whole process of accommodation. And I like that, because I think that definitely it takes a leader, it takes good people within the organization to open up the door for everyone. And I think it can be also a collaboration, right, Harris? I know, for example, I disclosed to one of my manager in a company previously that I don't like reading too much. And unfortunately for me, this came back and bite me. So every time there is document or things like that, she's like, "Oh, I know Flora doesn't like reading." Wait,
Mm,
I love digesting content in audio, video. So usually I find ways to find a different format for me to digest. And if there is no different format, I will still read it. I don't mind. That's part of my job. But I am disclosing that I don't usually like reading a lot. That's
mm,
again my identity. But this person just turned it to something very, very it wasn't good. So my understanding, when you're talking about a disability that is not visible, for someone to disbelieve you, first of all, for
mm,
you telling who you are and what you can do or what you cannot do as a challenge, and coming in a very negative way, that already exclusion, that
mm.
already excluding you. And it might even create more burnout, because then you have not only to try to meet the demand of that person, but also deal with all the emotion that comes with it, because you know yourself and you know your challenges. Are
Mhm.
there ways to bypass some of those challenges? I mean, we almost there with the time, but can you just share one tips? For example, what will it take to open up, or at least to break one of those barriers?
So your example that you gave about a leader just taking what you said and acting on that, I talk about moving organizations from compliance to community. And
Yes.
that example that you gave is an example of compliance, because you said, oh, well, I don't like doing this way. And the leader said, okay, then you're not going to do that, period. And then left it at that. That's a level of compliance, because I complied with the fact that you said, I don't like to read. Okay, then you don't read. That's just checking that box. The community aspect would have been, and this is the suggestion, is to ask a question. It doesn't matter where level you are in the organization, everyone can ask a question. And the question could be, well, how do you work best? What does success look like for you?
Mm,
How can I position you to do your best? Just asking that question. And then you could have come with, well, I don't necessarily like to read. And then that leads to another question. Well, how do you like to digest information? So
yeah.
asking questions, not just taking what people give and acting on that and leaving it at that, because that's compliance. I
Yes.
just complied with the fact that you said, I don't like X. Okay, you don't have to do X. But building community and putting you and employees in a position to be most successful is taking it that step closer and just asking an open-ended question to say, well, how do you succeed? What do you need to work your best? What does success look like for you? Any of those kind of mix of questions.
Harris, you should have been in that room with me when I was talking to this person. But you know what? You are so right, because I think that is one person showing you one thing is not everything. It's like looking at the tips of an iceberg. There's so much to that person. I per se create so many contents. I read so much, so it's quite interesting. I say I don't like reading, but at the same time I am forced in my own field of work to do a lot of reading, statistics and all of that. But I think that my the way I was expressing to this person was just differently, but that person also took this, like you said, compliance, checking the box. She doesn't like it. So I'm inviting people, as you are listening to this conversation, dive deeper. Harry said, don't look just at the tip of the iceberg. Dive deeper, ask questions, and give people the chance to, to expand and disclose a little bit more. I think that's really also talks about being or feeling secure to disclose certain things. Wow.
Certainly.
Well, Harris, where can people, continue the conversation with you or connect with you? Where is it easy to connect with you?
Yeah, I am. It's easy because I'm in one place. I'm on LinkedIn. That's my social media of choice. But you can find me there. I post regularly, at least 2 to 3 times a week. I have several conversations such as these all the time. Podcast. You can find me on your nearest podcast. I'm all over Spotify, and I have. This is January, right?
Yes.
So in the last 30 days, I probably did 4 or 5 podcasts across the country and a couple international in France, and I'll be posting those, continuing a deeper dive conversation around these topics. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and my website is compliance2community.com. And I'm sure that you will have all this in the show notes, and you can send it out later. I'll be reposting this as well. And if Flora, if you, for your audience, if you did not see the comments in LinkedIn, it'd be great if you could go to Talkadout. And if you enjoyed this conversation, to leave a review there, that would be very helpful for me. I'm always looking to get 1% better and how I can approach these conversations and approach organizations in a better way. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with your audience.
I love it. Love it. So here you go. You can find Harris easily. He is very open. He's very kind. I mean, Harris, you just blew my mind with just, a little bit more light and understanding around what needs to be done versus, creating a community, empowering everyone. I see Frankie also said, I love this concept of moving from thinking about accommodation with a compliance mindset to a community mindset. Thank you so much, Frankie, for sharing. I see also Gregory said, what is that? I am
In my humble opinion, yeah.
in my humble opinion. There you go. Still have a lot to learn. I feel people are going to be exposed of their narrow mindedness when it comes to ND in 2025. And I think that even having conversation like that is really what empowers everyone. Sometime I've been in a room, and I think Harris, you said it, you have been the first in many rooms, many rooms. I mean, for me as well, I've been first in some rooms, and because of that, sometimes I felt either very small, I didn't want to share or participate or engage. Could be fear, could be just the room was set in a way that was not really either not welcoming, or it was just my own fear holding me back. But also, I've been in places where I disclose my truth, I share my opinions, and some people take it and some people just deny it. And that's
Mhm.
okay. I think that it's all about experience. And I love how you said that, listen, there is again more than just the tips of the iceberg. Don't just judge someone because you just met them, because they are not understanding or they don't know how to speak English. They could be from France. You mentioned that you've been in France. Don't tu parles français? Do you speak French as well? A tiny
Oh
bit?
no, no, I don't speak French. I wish I did, so I have to add to the list.
So something to come later on. But definitely, you can't just judge someone because they're different or they behave different or they communicate different or they just look different. But I know we are on the top of the like time is over, but I am just curious. How do you deal in situation where you are always first? What comes first to you usually? Just putting someone in a place where they're not used to, it's
Mhm.
not a comfortable place. How do you deal with that and just keep on moving? I just want you to share that before we
Yeah,
close.
I've been first in many environments in terms of being either the first person of color, the only one that is least out and loud and proud about being neurodistinct, or the youngest in the room, or a combination of all three. But I have two ears and one mouth, so I choose to observe first in those conversations, in those environments. I observe, I watch, I listen, and then from those observations, I'm able to think on, okay, well, which one strategically, which conversations do I want to approach? Which people do I need to have this type of conversation with? Which people do I need to just listen and not say anything at all and let them talk? So I am always observing my environment, and I like to think of it as a circle. I always circle from the outside, and then I get closer into these rings. And the people that I want to get closer to are those one or two that I am trying to build a relationship with, and not just a transaction. So that's the very short way that I have been successful in those environments, is listening first, observing first, and then strategically circling around in my mind, sometimes physically the room, but mostly in my mind, circling around, okay, this person here, this person here. Now that sounds like that I'm excluding different people on different things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about exclusion. I'm talking about I have a particular agenda in mind for that occasion, for that place, for that time, and I need to be strategic in terms of cutting through the noise to get to the person or the people that will help me get to that result. So that doesn't mean that I exclude them this period and I never ever have a interaction with them. It means that I target and hone in on the people or the person that's going to help me get to my X result.
I love that. And I think that that just boils down to investing the right way. There is a certain amount of time if you have to be in a room. People are not going to be there forever. So there is a certain amount of time you have, and you want to be able to talk to the right people. And then, if chance allows, you can talk to more people, but at least you're targeting in a way that you investing your time the right way. I will encourage any leader, any professional, any individual who are trying to achieve things, be strategic, like Harris. In any places, there is always time to do a lot, but when you're very like you target, you
Yeah.
are more likely to succeed. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.